Hi there, my name's Brett Hargreaves and I'm passionate about building software. Not just writing code, but building solutions. Taking a business process, identifying opportunities for streamlining and then creating an application that makes the job faster, easier, more efficient and save the business money and maybe even generate new income. Because let's face it, that's what software is all about. Making money for the developer and for the business. Even if it's personal software, it's still about making life easier and freeing up time, and as they say, time is money. But there's a problem. Too few people learn how to build software. They learn how to code, and don't get me wrong, coding is of course essential, although there are tools that will allow you to build software without actually having to write any code. But so many people, courses and technical articles focus purely on the coding side. They miss an equally crucial part of the work, and that's the ability to structure the code and solution in such a way as to make it easy to maintain, even during the first versions. At the start, it is often considered not to be that important. As a junior developer, I would look at more complex solutions and wonder why anyone would need to build software with so many individual blocks. What does it achieve? This was primarily brought about because of how I had learned. I bought books, I watched tutorials, I read blogs, I even followed some of the official Microsoft curriculum courses, and they all taught me how to code. They all taught me how to address a particular need, an e-commerce site, maybe a social platform, in more recent times, photo sharing apps, blogging tools, all sorts of individual applications, but they all shared a common theme. They showed you how to write loops, format strings, connect to a database, or upload a file, all in the context of the app in question. As I tried to make the jump from freelance developer to professional in-house developer, I learned something new. Software houses don't like freelancers. They don't want the back bedroom self-taught tutorial-led developers. At the top end, they only want people who have already worked in big teams. Why is this? No course I could find would explain it. No blogger would detail what the problem was. But then one day I made my break and then it all became clear. And suddenly I realised what I'd been doing wrong my entire development career. You see, the problem is that I had always worked for myself, just me. I learnt from others in similar situations, self-taught bloggers, teachers reading from a book, even official material that was more bothered about teaching you how to write code. But when you become part of a team, it all changes, because now you have to work with others on the same application. As a lone developer, this is just impossible. All your code is in the same project. Your code is all mishmashed together, and trying to work on the same code base as somebody else is just unfeasible. One of the biggest reasons for software project failures, especially for freelancers, is that the code becomes too big and too unwieldy. The customer asks for one thing and you provide. But then they use your lovely new app, they realise what they asked for is not quite what they wanted, because now they've used it, now they've had a proper play with it, they understand more about what they themselves want, and so they ask the question, can you just change this? Can you just tweak that? Maybe just make this work in this way. And so you do it. Part of your ankles, the customer asked for it that way. It's not your fault if they got the requirements wrong. But how can the customer possibly know when they've never used the software before? It's one thing to imagine how it might work, but something very different when you actually start using it. This is one of the main drivers behind something called agile working practices. It states not to wait till the end to show the customer something when there might be a misunderstanding, but to constantly deliver small pieces continually, constantly, and keep getting feedback. But if you have a real big block of code and you have to keep changing it, it's going to get messy real fast. So what do? The key is modularization. You split your code into individual chunks. Each chunk is responsible for specific tasks, and each chunk can be individually tested in isolation. Then we bring all these chunks together into a whole. Each bit is just a small cog in the big machine. Not only that, but you can make the cogs just the right shape, but make the actual internal workings independent to the shape. That way you can take one cog and swap it out for another. If it's the same shape, it will still fit, even though the internal workings might be different. This is absolutely fine. What we are talking about here are concepts of encapsulation and abstraction, interface segregation, single responsibility principles, dependency inversion, all terms you may have read about, but until you work on the big projects in big teams, you never really get it. But when you do, it's like a eureka moment. You suddenly realise that even on small projects, even as a lone freelance developer, these techniques make your life so much easier. You can code faster, more efficiently, you have less bugs, and therefore there's less work fixing them. Does that sound good? Let's get started.